Good day and welcome to another episode of Reclaiming Timeless Ways. This is Mike Draister. I'm Simon Fuller. Glad to have you along for yet another episode and hopefully another opportunity for us to chat and maybe an opportunity for you to grab something that'll benefit your life or someone's that you know. Mike, what is our topic of discussion today?
Visions of one's life.
Okay, visions of one's life.
And so this is something that you look at something 1,000 times before it crystallizes and you realize what you're seeing. Because there's just little bits and pieces of patterns. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, right? So over many years talking to thousands of people, medical conversations, counseling conversations, just life conversations. One of the things that I started to become aware of is that the treasures within us are revealed in our daydreams.
Okay.
Okay? We don't know what we want. And the picture I have is a bottle of soda. Right? And then, so it's a visual thing. And it's full of soda and carbon dioxide bubbles, right? The bubbles in the soda. And when you open the cap a little bit, the pressure is released and the bubbles start coming from the bottom up. You
Sure.
see it fizz, right? So it's kind of like that with daydreams.
Okay.
When you're looking at your daydreams, what you're seeing is your desires, and your desires are an expression of your interests and your experiences and your gifts.
Okay.
Okay, so if you have bad daydreams, like I want to kill my Uncle Seymour, right? Seymour is bad. I don't have an Uncle Seymour, but I really want to kill him, right? He's a bad guy. So if that's your daydream, this is not part of your life's vision. This is just passion, unbridled passion, because Seymour is
He has done something to anger you
he's
recently.
pissed you off too many times. He's the horse that kicked you in the head more than once. Or what you dragged in on your shoe. But this is about the constructive daydreams. So if you think about your constructive daydreams, like the bubbles coming to the surface being your conscious, from out of your aptitudes that are unexpressed to the conscious mind where you can begin to hone something, right?
Okay.
You begin to see something and you go, there's something, maybe I feel a strong passion or an interest in that. What could I do with that, right? And it's just like a toy. You look, you pick it up, or a pen, you look at it, you go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, see how that works. Oh, it's a nice tip, a lot of ink in there. It's got a soft grip, closes, opens. So you look at your gift or your daydream and you ask yourself, oh, look, there was a photographer, Jane English was her name. She was a physicist. She had a PhD, has a PhD from a school up in Wisconsin. And somehow she got involved in Eastern mysticism, and she also got involved in photography. Well, so the photography, if you could say, was like her daydream.
Okay.
Coming into a congealed form, right, crystallizing. Mm-hmm. And she became one of the finest photographers anywhere in the world. Brilliant, like Ansel Adams, brilliant. Mm-hmm. But she only worked with black and white, but then she transited to color as well, and she's equally good. Her work is extraordinary. And you look at somebody like Grandma Moses, who didn't start painting till her early 70s. By a coincidence, she went to a senior center at night because she was bored. So you got some company, she would play cards. And one night the teacher came up to her and he said, well, the weather's terrible, so your card class canceled because nobody showed up. I have a class and we play with paint. You want to paint? And she's like, no, I'm no good at it. I did it when I was 12 or something. He goes, it doesn't matter. We're not grading anybody. We're just throwing paint on the page. You have some fun. Make a mess.
Right.
Learn something. So she did it, and at the end of the class, she liked it, so she asked him if she could come back, and he said, sure. So she came back, and she came back after every week for 6 or 8 weeks, and she came up to him and she said, I have a little extra money, would you teach me privately? And he goes, I'm going to say no, but before I tell you no, I want you to understand why. He said, I can't teach you, but I was going to ask you if you would teach me. And she became one of the greatest painters of the last century. She painted a style of art called primitive art. It's almost two-dimensional, very idyllic, beautiful old scenes of farmhouses and country living, things like that. When you see it, or barns, when you see it in horse-drawn carts, things, when you see it, you go, oh, okay, I know her art, I love her art. So it's like, in us, there's these daydreams, and the daydreams are reflections of our gifts that we were designed with. So the question is not, am I lucky or not lucky? So-and-so's got their dream, right? The question is, can I keep just paying attention to my daydreams and then experiment with something?
It is interesting you say that, because at the core you think about people and the more successful ones. I mean, once in a while it's you fall into it backwards and it works out, but oftentimes, or somebody even in the classroom setting, we'll go back to the school classroom setting, it's easier to pay attention in the classes or excel in the classes or athletic events or whatever it may be, the ones you enjoy, the ones you like.
Right.
And that's kind of what your daydreams are telling you. These are the things you enjoy, so you will naturally be better at them, because anything you enjoy, you're going to pursue to the next level. And whether this, apparently this Grandma Moses wasn't a good painter as a youngster, but it was still always a passion, and it was.
I think she had some talent, but she didn't do anything with it.
Correct. And
Right.
and it was always there, but it was her body telling her, you're pretty good, you enjoy it, go give it a shot. And are all of us gonna be end like that? No, not exactly.
No.
But that's an interesting way to look at ourselves. And you're probably irritating some teachers right now, because you're giving students an excuse to say, when they're nodding off in their daydreams in class, Mike, hey, I'm just pursuing my gifts and talents. What you've done.
Too bad.
No, I think there's a lot of
Send
truth
me
to
to
what
the
you're saying.
principal's office. I don't care. I'm not going.
All I was doing was pursuing my gift, like Mike Traster told me to.
I'm a troublemaker. It's my gift. I saw myself making trouble in my daydreams years.
That's right. It's Mike's
decades.
fault.
That's right. He did it. Blame it on Mikey. So it's within you, within the core of your being. Like if you go under the ground, you dig a hole, you make a mine, and in the ground you might find iron, because the iron is there. Or you might find copper, or rubies, or emeralds, or quartz, or whatever it is that's needs to be excavated and is there. Those are the elements that are in you. So when you go in there and you pop the top of the bottle and it percolates up, you begin, to see your gifts. And then you can start experimenting with them and say, okay, what's the specific form that I'm going to allow this to take? You're never going to see the whole picture at once.
Yeah.
It's going to congeal in little tiny bits.
Sure. Sure.
Maybe a good analogy might be somebody in a primitive place, or a semi-primitive, say 150 years ago, and they go out in the woods. They have basic tools, and they cut down a bunch of trees. and they form the logs. They take the logs. There she is.
Yeah, we've got kids and dogs home.
Yeah,
They're going to try to
that's
come into
great.
our studio and bust in on the show for us. Might take our stardom away.
It might. We can deal with that. Oh, beautiful babies. and so a guy, he doesn't necessarily have a whole architectural plan, but he forms a cabin and it becomes a home.
Right.
And then and over time he refines the foundation or the floor, or the windows, the door, the hinges, the roof. And it's a constant
Yeah.
process of refinement,
Yeah.
you know. So life's visions.
All right, so pay attention to them. That's what Mike's saying.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of
in
truth
your
to that.
daydreams. In your daydreams.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, we appreciate you so much, Sharon. We appreciate you for joining us. And until next time, we wish you a fantastic day.
God, I want to see.